On the 3rd to 5th of April, Malaysian contract doctors will be on strike again. I'm Dr. Han. If you would like to know more about this, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about it. Hello and welcome to Gigi Han channel. In this video, we are going to talk about 3 main points. The first point being, why is this strike happening? The second point is, what are the doctors' demands? And also the last point being, what can we do in order for the government to improve or solve this issue? Alright, firstly, we need to know why they are going on strike. And we have to know that this is not the first time that they are going on strike. They already attempted this back in 2021, about 2 years ago. But their demands were not met, so they are going on strike again in April. Now, we need to know why this happened. And in order to explain that, we need to go back to the old days after Malaysia got its independence. Back then, there were only 3 universities offering medical courses, which are UM, UKM, and USM. And slowly, UPM and also Sabah and Sarawak joined. So there were six universities offering medical courses back from our Independence Day until 1995. And in 1995, things started to change. From the year of 1995 to 2000, the number of universities with medical courses boomed from 6 to 10, right? Just within this 5 years' time, from 6 to 10. And furthermore, from 2000 until 2012, within this short period of 10-12 years' time, again, it boomed from 10 universities to more than 30 universities with medical schools. That is the reason. Just take me as an example. I'm a private dentist, but back then, when I first graduated in the year 2011, my registration number was 5,000 plus. Meaning, since our independence up until 2011, 50 plus years, our number of dentists were only about 5,000 plus. But since 2011 and until 2022, now the numbers have crossed 15,000 plus. So 50 years, 5,000 plus, another 10 years, 10,000 plus. That is how significant and exponential the growth has been. And of course, I'm sure it is much worse for the medical doctors. Back then, during the mid-2000s, when Dr. Chua Soy Lek was the health minister, the regulation was that when a doctor graduated from the medical school, he needed to serve in government sector, government hospital or government clinics as a public servant for at least 5 years. Meaning he has to work for the government for at least 5 years before he could decide whether or not he wants to pursue his career to private sector or still he could stay in the medical government sector. But with the increase of the number of graduates, the number of years of service slowly decreased to 4-3, and now the requirement is that you have 18 months of contracts. What do I mean by contract? You are no longer considered as a public servant, and now once your contract is up, it is no longer up to you to decide whether you can stay on, and very likely you need to be ejected out from the sector. The main problems that the contract doctors are facing right now are they are working for very long hours under a very stressful environment, but they are not well compensated. From what I know, they are getting paid at around 9 ringgit per hour, which, you know, maybe a waiter or a fast food worker may get paid even more sometimes. And also, with them getting stuck at the status of contract doctors, they have less chances of studying or pursuing their careers as specialists compared to their permanent public servant counterparts. Now, back in 2021, the contract doctors had already organized a strike to voice out their demands, but how the government solved it, they thought that the government was not trying to solve their problem, but merely delaying the problem by extending their contract for another 2 years, which did not solve the root cause of the problem. Now, let's take a look at what their demands are this time. Number one, they want the government to absorb all the contract doctors to become permanent doctors. Number two, they want to increase their salaries and the on-call pay from the mere 9 ringgit per hour to 40 ringgit per hour. And also they want to increase the number of specialists, and also they want to have more chances to study and pursue to become specialists. Number four, to change the number of compulsory service to 3 years without any application. And number five, to reduce the working hours and the number of days of on-call not exceeding 6 times a month, and also the working hours should not exceed more than 60 hours per week. And the last demand is to let them come back to their original states after 2 years of service, because a lot of doctors, they get sent to rural areas or states that are far away like Sabah, Sarawak, and they would like to come back to their original states like Johor, Penang, Selangor, and so on after 2 years of service. And they say that if their demands are not met, then they will proceed and organize the strike on 3rd to 5th of April. Now, we know what the problems are, and from now on, how do we solve this issue from its root cause? After speaking with some colleagues and also with my own personal inputs, here are my 3 suggestions to the government in order to solve this issue. The first one being, maybe we should not have any more new universities or colleges to start medical, dentistry, or pharmacy courses. Now, the government is already implementing this regulation. Previously, they banned new universities and colleges from starting such courses, and recently they again extended this ban for another 5 years, meaning for the next 5 years there will not be any universities starting medical, dentistry, or pharmacy courses. The next one, second suggestion being, maybe we can reduce the numbers of local students. For example, this year you have 100 local medical students. Next year, maybe you can reduce it to 90, 80, 70, and so on. Okay, I understand that private university, they are for-profit organizations. They need to earn money, and how do we fill in the gaps or void of those reduction of local students? Well, we can go through some diplomatic ways, and we can attract students from overseas, let them study in private universities in Malaysia, and once they graduate, they are not allowed to practice in Malaysia, but they have to go back to their home countries in order to continue their career over there, right? The last suggestion is not going to be very popular. It's going to annoy a lot of people. It is to have a professional paper before you can practice as a doctor. Meaning, regardless you are a graduate from a local universities or you are a graduate from overseas universities, regardless where, you need to sit for a standardized professional exam. Once you pass, and only if you pass the professional paper, you are allowed to practice as a doctor. Well, I understand that this will not be a popular decision to make, because in order to study in a private university or to go overseas and come back, parents need to spend hundreds of thousands of ringgit or even 1 million ringgit in order to sponsor their child to study such courses. But we can see from, for example, Singapore and Japan, they already have this system in place to control the standard and the numbers of the health professionals in their country. Although it will not be popular, I still think that this may be a viable option for the government to consider. Well, whether or not my suggestion will be implemented, that's not up to me at all. But what I can advise y'all as a parents, as a student, as someone who knows someone who is going to study or have interest in medical field, you need to understand that the current situation in medical dentistry or pharmacy is no longer a lucrative career compared to 15 years ago. Back then, when your family have a doctor, it is a pride of the family. But nowadays, no, it's no longer such lucrative jobs or career anymore. So my advice is, unless you are very, very interested in saving people's life, working with teeth or working with medicine, then yes, you can proceed and study medicine, dentistry or pharmacy. But if you are looking at wanting to earn a lot of money through your career, I'm sorry, being a doctor is no longer a viable option. The path is very, very difficult. It is a red ocean right now. There's so much of competition. And if you have that kind of thinking, I would advise you against to proceed and to further study in the medical field. Well, it is depressing, I know, but thank you for staying and watch my video. If you like this video, remember to like and maybe subscribe to my channel if you like to hang out with me. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.